Three girls, all absolute main heroine material, are hopelessly in love with one ordinary high school boy, Izumi Sumie. First, there's Amane Amasaki, the school's untouchable idol. Beautiful, popular, and adored by everyone, yet deep down she's just a spoiled gal who wants Izumi's attention. Then comes Hakuya Shiragiku, the flawless student council president, aka Ice Princess. Elegant, dignified, yet behind closed doors, she's his former fiancé who can't stop doting on him. And finally, Haru Kasuga, the bratty kohai with devilish charm. She acts impossible to handle, but surprisingly, she's the easiest to make fall. Three girls, three heroines, all deeply in love. But they all share one fatal weakness. None of them can properly say, "I love you." And that's exactly why everything falls apart when a new transfer student arrives. Nanao Nanase, the moment she looks Izumi in the eyes and says, "I love you," the entire balance of this rom-com is destroyed. Because the girl who can properly say, "I love you," is absolutely unstoppable. We start in April at a school surrounded by cherry blossom, with students casually chatting before class. Our main guy, Izumi, gets approached by his friends who suddenly invite him to karaoke after school. Izumi is immediately suspicious, and for good reason. Turns out it's not just karaoke. They're planning a mixer with girls from another school and want Izumi there because he's handsome and comes from a good family. Izumi instantly calls them out, saying they're basically walking into failure. Then, this man gets way too confident and jokes that if he shows up, every girl there will fall for him, leaving nothing for his friends. And the funniest part? Nobody reacts. Just complete silence. Bro really dropped his joke and got hit with the ... response. Even Izumi gets embarrassed and starts yelling at them to at least say something so it doesn't look like he completely bombed. His friends bluntly tell him, yeah, no, that joke was terrible. While all that nonsense is happening, someone calls out to him. A girl named Amasaki walks in and the whole class lights up. She's just returned after being away from modeling and everyone immediately starts welcoming her back. She explains that she went to LA with her designer father to expand her horizons. Naturally, her classmates are impressed. Overseas, modeling, designer dad? Yeah, she's basically the school celebrity. But Amasaki isn't just popular because she's pretty. She's known as a model, a fashion trendsetter, and somehow one of the top students in class too. She even hands out souvenirs to everyone like some generous celebrity doing a fan meet. When someone asks if she's worried about the quiz after missing so much school, she casually says she prepared already. Her classmates are amazed, and she even offers to help anyone struggling with studies. And here's where the story quietly reveals something funny. Later, after school, while everyone else is heading home, Amasaki's sitting alone in class with Izumi. They're having another private study session. One of her friends pokes her head in and jokes that all Izumi's effort is wasted since he's barely passing, even with Amasaki healthy. Izumi fires back, saying she should just wait until he gets a recommendation. Her friend laughs, calls Amasaki a goddess, and warns Izumi not to trouble her too much before leaving. The second she's gone, the whole atmosphere changes. Amasaki suddenly slams her hands on the desk and starts panicking, begging Izumi to teach her properly. Yep, plot twist, the so-called genius model student is actually the one being tutored. Izumi just sighs like this is a routine. He tells her to stop pretending to be some perfect honor student. Amasaki nearly cries, saying it's way too late to back out now. Turns out, because of her modeling schedule, she barely has time to study. Last summer, she almost failed badly enough to repeat a year. Since then, Izumi has been secretly helping her by organizing notes and teaching her only the most important material as efficiently as possible. And honestly, the funniest part is that her own fake reputation trapped her. Her grades improved thanks to Izumi, and then she got overconfident and started offering to teach other people. Now she has to maintain the image of being smart. Amasaki admits she just couldn't refuse when people asked for help. Izumi points out that even if she's acting the part, it's still impressive that she learned enough to teach others. He starts explaining another formula to her, quietly realizing she's actually naturally intelligent. She picks things up fast and clearly works hard whenever she gets free time. Soon, the school bell rings. Amasaki closes her notebook and says she has to leave for work. Before going, she looks at Izumi and asks something interesting, whether he's actually the one pretending to be dumb, because from her perspective, if he really tried, he could easily get top grades. Izumi just shrugs and says life is easier when people don't expect much from it. That answer says a lot without saying much. Then he adds something that catches her completely off guard. He tells her that watching her work hard is already enough for him. And wow, Amasaki is done. She gets so flustered she can barely function. Izumi gets up to leave, but before he can walk away, Amasaki grabs the edge of his shirt. She hesitates for a moment before quietly asking him not to tell anyone that he's the one teaching her. Then she admits something personal. He's the only person she shows this weak side to. Izumi simply tells her he understands. That's all she needed. After he leaves, Amasaki is left alone in the classroom holding the notebook Izumi made for her. And the second the door closes, this girl completely melts. She hugs the notebook to her face, kicks her legs in excitement, and starts spiraling. In her head, this is already confirmed. Izumi definitely likes her. I mean, from her perspective, why else would a guy put in this much effort just for her? No way, they're just friends. She becomes convinced their feelings are mutual and thinks all this missing is a confession. Then she starts thinking ahead and immediately gets nervous because she's never actually dated anyone before. So now she's flustered over what happens after becoming a couple. She decides there's no need to rush. After all, she believes she understands Izumi better than anyone. And just like that, our first heroine officially enters the race. Not long after, the school gathers for an assembly. The speeches drag on forever. Students start getting restless and Izumi is barely staying awake. Then the student council president is announced. That instantly gets his attention. A girl named Hakuwa Shirajuku walks onto the stage and takes the podium. The atmosphere shifts immediately. Students whisper about how beautiful she is. She carries herself with perfect elegance and composure, basically radiating untouchable elite. People around Izumi start gossiping about her. She recently rejected a basketball club member, which only reinforced her nickname, the Ice Princess. Rich family, top grades, flawless image. In everyone's eyes, she's completely out of reach. Hakuwa calmly gives her speech about the upcoming sports festival and encourages everyone to work together. Then, just before leaving the stage, she looks directly at Izumi and smiles. Just a small one, but very deliberate. Izumi doesn't react. Interesting. Later that evening, Izumi returns home to his apartment. As he reaches his door, he notices something odd. There's an extra pair of sandals inside. The moment he steps in, a familiar voice welcomes him home. It's Hakuwa. She's in his kitchen cooking. Yeah, so the Ice Princess at school and the girl cooking dinner in his apartment are somehow the same person. Izumi explains the situation. Their both families run major companies, and because of that, their parents arranged an engagement between them in the past. But things changed. Izumi is no longer the heir to his family's business, so officially that engagement no longer matters.
Theory, their relationship should be over. In reality, Hakuwa clearly did not get that memo. The table is already set with dinner for two, and before Izumi can even process anything, Hakuwa opens her arms and asks for a hug. Izumi awkwardly greets her with a formal Shirajiku senpai. Instant mistake. Hakuwa immediately pouts until he corrects himself and calls her Hakuwa-ne instead. That works. Her mood instantly improves and she pulls him into a hug while patting his head, praising him for working hard. At school, they keep their distance to avoid attention and hide their former engagement, but at home, Hakuwa acts exactly like she did back in middle school. She treats him like an adorable younger brother. And Izumi is struggling, not emotionally, physically. This girl has absolutely no concept of personal space. He eventually pushes her back and tells her to calm down so they can eat before dinner gets cold. After the meal, Izumi helps with the dishes and apologizes for always causing her trouble. Hakuwa brushes it off, saying she was making dinner for herself anyway. Izumi clearly doesn't buy that excuse. Then Hakuwa asks him a dangerous question. What did he think of her cooking? Izumi freezes. He realizes he forgot to compliment the meal. Big mistake. He quickly says it was delicious, but Hakuwa doesn't let him off that easily. She stares at him and asks him to explain exactly how delicious it was. Bro is fighting for his life over dinner feedback. Flustered and cornered, Izumi awkwardly blurts out that her cooking might be the best in the world. Critical hit. Hakuwa completely short circuits. That single compliment hits her so hard she instantly declares she'll cook for him every single day. Izumi panics and tells her that's way too much. Meanwhile, Hakuwa was standing there all shy and happy while Izumi notices the absurdly huge pot of beef stew she made. This girl was clearly prepared for a long campaign, and when she leaves, we finally get her side of things. Hakuwa internally celebrates like she just secured a major victory. She has a plan, using her status as Izumi's former engagee, plus the fact that she already got a spare key and moved into the apartment next door, even against her parents' wishes. She intends to slowly become indispensable in his daily life. Her strategy? Become his live-in wife before anyone else gets the chance. And judging by that giant pot of stew, yeah, she is taking this competition very seriously. The next day at school, Izumi brings his usual lunch and gets ready to eat. Most students either buy food or bring something simple from home, but Izumi's situation is a little different. The bento sitting on his desk was handmade by Hakuwa, and honestly, for someone living alone, having homemade meals appear out of nowhere every day is kind of broken. Before you can even start eating, chaos arrives. Someone suddenly yells for a guy to stay away from Inori, and Izumi turns to see his friend sprawled on the floor. Standing in front of him like a bodyguard is Haru Kasuga, shielding Inori with full defensive energy. She exclaims that some suspicious-looking guy was trying to get close to Inori, so she stepped in.
Izumi takes one look at the situation and immediately assumes his friend deserved it. He literally kicks him aside and agrees it was probably his fault. His friend protests, obviously offended, but Izumi ignores him and looks at the two girls. Haru and Inori are both first years, and despite being juniors, they're already pretty well known around school. Inori has this soft, calming presence that earned her the nickname of a little angel, while Haru is basically the opposite, tiny devil who aggressively guards her. The funny thing is, both girls are in the same club as Izumi. Inori asks if the club is meeting today since both are free. Izumi wonders why they came all the way to his classroom to just ask that instead of sending a message, but agrees they'll meet later. Then, Inori asks if he finished the book she recommended. Izumi admits he bought it, but hasn't actually started reading it. Before the conversation can continue, Haru instantly steps in like some overprotective security system and physically blocks Inori from getting any closer. She warns Izumi not to get too friendly with Inori. Izumi is completely baffled, bro. Can't even discuss books without getting flagged as suspicious? Haru then decides they're done here and starts dragging Inori away. Izumi tries to stop him, but Haru turns back, glares at him, and calls him a pervert. That hits him like psychic damage. Right after that, Amasaki peeks in and asks if he somehow got into a fight with first years. Izumi almost loses it trying to explain that he literally just wanted to talk about a book. Amasaki can only look at him like, yeah, rough day. Later, club time begins. Izumi heads to the Literature Appreciation Society's prep room, a tiny room packed with bookshelves. The club only has 3 members, Izumi, Inori, and Haru. Originally, Izumi was the last remaining member and planned to shut the club down after the seniors graduate, but the club survived because these two joined. Right now, Inori is quietly reading as usual. Haru? She's playing on her phone, not even pretending to read. Zero shame. Izumi stares at her for a moment and Haru immediately notices. She tells him not to look at her with perverted eyes. Izumi internally dies a little. At this point, breathing in her direction probably counts as harassment. Watching her casually game away, he realizes the only reason Haru joined this club was probably to stay close to Inori and keep weird people away. Then, out of nowhere, Izumi says the culprit in Inori's mystery novel is the little sister. Inori freezes, absolute panic. She frantically flips through pages trying to confirm if he spoiled her. A moment later, she realizes he was lying. The little sister isn't the culprit at all. Inori accuses him with tricking him, while Haru casually says she never spoiled anything because she hates spoilers. Izumi is confused for half a second until it hits him. Fake spoilers are still spoilers. Now he's paranoid for no reason. Haru smugly tells him he deserves it for ignoring his juniors and reading alone during club time. Izumi sighs heavily. Then he does something neither girl expects. He grabs his chair and drags it loudly across the floor until he's sitting directly in front of Haru. The room goes silent. Haru instantly stiffens. Inori's eyes go wide. Haru starts panicking, asking what exactly he's doing. Izumi stares straight at her. No joking, no teasing, just direct eye contact. Then he tells her what's been bothering him. She always treats him like an enemy, constantly warns him away from Inori. So he asks if there's actually another reason behind all this. Then he drops the question. Is she doing all this just to get his attention? That lands like a nuke. Haru completely short circuits. Her face turns bright red. Her heartbeat goes crazy. She can't even respond. Then Izumi reaches out and gently lifts her chin. Poor Haru is basically about to combust. He quietly asks her why she can't just be honest. Even Inori is frozen watching this. Haru squeezes her hand shirt, face burning, unable to say anything. And then Izumi leans back. The intense moment disappears just like that. He casually warns her that if she keeps acting like this, someone might seriously misunderstand her one day. And this idiot actually starts feeling cool about himself. My god thought he cooked. 1 second later, Haru grabs a book and launches it directly into his face. Direct hit. She screams at him to fix his rotten personality, calls him a pervert, tells him to die, and storms out. Inori quickly runs after. Izumi lies there rubbing his head, admitting he probably pushed things too far. Then he notices something hilarious. The book Haru threw at him was the same one he had been reading. Outside, Haru walks away with tears in her eyes, clearly shaken. Inori gently points out what really happened. Haru had secretly read ahead in that book just so she could keep up with Izumi Izumi and talk to him about it. Inori asks the obvious question, does Haru really want Izumi's attention that badly? Haru blushes hard, and we get a glimpse into why she acts this way. Back in middle school, Haru and Inori once got cornered by a group of punks. Izumi stepped in to protect them. He even mocked the guys, calling them kittens to provoke them. Cool line, terrible plan, because right after that, he got absolutely beaten up. Still, he protected them. That memory never left Haru. Now her behavior makes more sense. She acts tough, aggressive, and defensive, but deep down, she's surprisingly soft. And Izumi is one of the few people who knows that side of her. Just like that, the third heroine officially joins the race. So now we've got Amasaki, Akua, and Haru. 3 girls, 3 completely different approaches. Surely things can't get more chaotic, right? Yeah, about that. The next morning, multiple girls are already looking for Izumi.
Amasaki gets dragged around by her friends pretending she totally wasn't searching. Hakua quietly waits near the stairs because she already knows his schedule. Haru keeps insisting she doesn't care about him at all, which convinces absolutely nobody. Each of them is thinking about him in their own way. Amasaki remembers their secret study sessions. Hakua imagines a peaceful future together. Haru can't even greet him properly without getting flustered. And then a new girl walks toward Izumi, a transfer student named Nano Nanase. Without hesitation, she stops right in front of him. Then she says it. She loves him and she wants to date him. Instant silence. From the stairs, Hakua, Amasaki, and Haru all freeze from pure shock, pure horror. Their expressions basically scream, "Wait, what?" This newcomer just skipped every complicated step and went straight for the final move. No hesitation, no overthinking, just a direct confession. Honestly, terrifying strategy. While everyone is stunned, Nano stands there confident, believing she has found the only guaranteed way to win. If you like someone, just say it. Simple, effective, brutal. The 3 girls immediately refuse to accept defeat. No way they're losing to a surprise transfer student who entered the race 5 seconds ago. And just like that, the love battle gets even messier. But before we see Izumi's answer, the story rewinds. 1 week. Back then, Nano had just transferred in. She was walking through the school carrying heavy bags and clearly struggling. Since she was new, she didn't know anyone and had no one to rely on. Then someone called out to her. It was Izumi, leaning near the lockers. And for some reason, this man opens with the weirdest line possible, calling her an adorable little kitten. Nano just stares at him, completely speechless. You can literally see her thinking, what kind of city people have I met? Even Izumi gets embarrassed and starts regretting his approach. He awkwardly explains he only said something because she looked like she was struggling. Nano studies him for a moment. He's weird, very weird, but not scary. Izumi takes the heavy bags from her and says a girl shouldn't be carrying something that heavy alone. Nano asks what he's doing. She explains she came to handle transfer paperwork and collect books because her father was too busy to help. Izumi quickly realizes they're in the same year and neighboring classes. Then he starts moving fast. He calls the guidance counselor, explains the situation, and arranges everything almost immediately. He even gets her textbooks scheduled for delivery so she doesn't have to carry them home. Nano is stunned. She asks who he was talking to. From her perspective, he just solved every problem in minutes. As Izumi points her toward the school gate, Nano notices something hanging from his phone, a character charm. And the second she sees it, she freezes. She points at it in shock. Izumi turns, confused. Nano explains that she never thought she'd meet someone else who still carries that specific charm after all these years. Turns out, she loves that character too. Someone bought the charm for her a long time ago, and even though her friends never understood why she liked it, she kept it all this time. She still carries it. Izumi is surprised because he has the exact same one. Nano tells him she genuinely loves that charm and has treasured it for years. Izumi listens quiet, then gets a little flustered, and for the first time during their interaction, his expression softens. He thanks her and tells her he's genuinely happy to hear that. After that confession bomb, things get messy fast. By the end of the school day, Izumi is sitting at his desk looking absolutely drained, wondering how his life spiraled this hard in just a few hours. Thanks to Satu witnessing the confession and spreading it like breaking news, the whole school now believes Izumi has a new girlfriend. His classmates won't leave him alone. They crowd around him, demanding details and acting personally offended that this guy somehow got confessed to by a cute transfer student. They keep calling him unforgivable like he committed some crime against single men everywhere.
everywhere. Izumi sighs and turns to Amasaki, hoping for at least one reasonable opinion. He asks if she agrees everyone's overreacting just because he got confessed to. Big mistake. Amasaki just stares at him, silent, dangerous. Then makes a sharp comment about how nicely a popular guy like him must handle confessions. Izumi immediately notices the mood. He asks why she sounds so irritated. Amasaki denies being upset, but her face is doing the exact opposite. Izumi points that out, and Amasaki accuses him of secretly enjoying all this attention. Izumi quickly explains that he barely knows Nano. He only met her once while helping her around school and was just as shocked by the confession as everyone else. Then, Amasaki casually drops something that makes him freeze. She mentions how he called the transfer students an adorable little kitten the moment they met. Izumi goes dead still. That information should not have spread. This man is dying inside. Amasaki brushes it off and says she doesn't care who he dates. He can go be happy with the transfer student for all she cares. Then he tells her something important. Just because a girl is cute doesn't mean he'd instantly accept a confession. Amasaki folds her arms and looks at him like she's judging his entire worldview. Izumi explains that dating should happen after getting to know someone properly. To him, starting a relationship just because someone confessed feels wrong. Amasaki calls that mindset old-fashioned, but deep down, she's thinking hard. Izumi is confusing. One moment he's saying embarrassing things like adorable little kitten, and the next he's being weirdly serious about romance. Then her brain starts overthinking. He's still single. He told her about the confession directly. Is he trying to make her jealous? Amasaki's imagination instantly runs wild. In her head, Izumi suddenly confesses that she's the one he truly likes. She slams both hands onto the desk hard. Izumi chumps. She starts ranting about how she knew from the start what kind of guy he was, while Izumi just looks terrified because he has no clue what is happening anymore. And right then, Nano appears behind him, hands on his shoulders, calling his name. Perfect timing for maximum chaos. Izumi turns in surprise, asking why she's still at school. Nano innocently asks if she can join. Amasaki immediately glares and points out that someone is already here, and maybe Nano's getting a little too physically comfortable. Nano apologizes and pulls back. Then, without warning, she grabs Amasaki's hands. Amasaki freezes. Nano suddenly lights up and asks if she's really Amasaki-chan, the famous model. Now the energy shifts completely. Nano starts showering Amasaki with compliments, saying she was already popular back in her hometown and even cuter in person than in photos. She praises her looks, her style, even how slim and fair she is. Amasaki's ego skyrockets. Instant. She goes from hostile to smug in record time. Internally, she's already thinking, okay, this girl might actually be nice. Izumi watches all this and realizes something dangerous. Amasaki is ridiculously easy to win over. Then, Nano notices some books and asks if they're studying. Izumi quickly says yes, and as promised, pretends that Amasaki is the one teaching him. Nano's impressed, saying it's amazing that Amasaki is both beautiful and smart. Izumi tries ending the conversation there, hoping Nano will leave before things get complicated. Nope. Nano asks if she can join the study session. Amasaki nearly short-circuits. Nano explains that her old school used a different curriculum, so she's worried she might fall behind. Izumi instantly realizes he's trapped. He can't let Nano find out he's actually the tutor, so now he has to pretend to be the struggling student. Amasaki suddenly blurts out that Nano absolutely should not join. Nano looks confused. Amasaki panics and blurts out the dumbest excuse possible. She says this is a naughty study session.
Silent. Nano's brain goes somewhere wild. Amasaki's brain catches up, and both realize how unbelievably wrong that sounded. Izumi just stares at her like, what is actually wrong with you? Desperate to recover, Amasaki changes tactics. She tells Nano that if she wants to pursue Izumi, she first needs to make sure he actually understands her feelings. Then she immediately turns on Izumi and scolds him for carelessly leading girls on. Izumi awkwardly agrees just to survive. Then Amasaki asks the question she really cares about. Who does he like right now? You can feel how nervous she is waiting for his answer. Izumi responds instantly. He says he doesn't currently like anyone, and dating just for the sake of dating feels wrong to him. That answer destroys Amasaki. She practically screams in frustration. Izumi is completely confused. Meanwhile, Amasaki's entire worldview is collapsing. She genuinely believed all those things Izumi did for her, helping her study, making notes, supporting her, had to mean something romantic. Is it really possible to do all that for someone without having romantic feelings? Critical, damn it. Amasaki mentally replays everything. The notebook,
book, the study sessions, him saying she's the only person who shows him this weak side. She desperately tries convincing herself those moments didn't mean what she thought. She stares blankly at the notebook in her hand and starts laughing. Not normal laughter either, the kind that makes everyone around you nervous. Izumi looks genuinely worried and asks if she's okay. Before he can think further, Nano leans in and asks him to help with the mouth problem. Izumi starts explaining it. Amasaki watches in disbelief at how calm Nano is. Izumi even asks Amasaki to confirm the explanation, forcing her to maintain the act. She nervously agrees. Then Nano gives Amasaki another question. Amasaki desperately throws out a formula to preserve her fake teacher status. At this point, Izumi starts noticing something weird. He glances at Nano's notebook and freezes. She has already solved problems way harder than the ones she just asked about. Izumi narrows his eyes. Hold on, she understands all of this already. Nano looks at him and smiles. That's when it clicks. She's pretending. Izumi almost wants to laugh at the absurdity. Two people who fully understand the material are pretending to get taught by a girl who's barely hanging on. This study session is a scam on every level. Then Nano casually points out a mistake on his paper.
And before he can react, she leans heavily against his arm while writing. Izumi stiffens. Amasaki's jaw drops. Nano presses close enough that Izumi completely loses focus. Then she slowly slides her hand over his. His heart starts racing. He tries to tell her to wait. Too late, Nano leans toward his ear and softly whispers that his fingers are long and cool. Yeah, direct attack. Izumi's brain stops working. Amasaki is red, Izumi is red. Nano somehow stays calm through all of this. After the study session ends, Nano says she has work and leaves. Amasaki remains behind at the desk, completely broken by everything she just witnessed. Meanwhile, Izumi heads downstairs trying to calm himself. He's breathing hard and wondering exactly what is wrong with that girl. Then, Nano calls out to him from above and asks if they can walk home together. Izumi immediately realizes something. Nano is way harder to handle than he first thought. As they walk, Izumi asks Nano if she noticed something during the study session. Nano says yes. Izumi explains Amasaki's situation, how she's struggling under the pressure of expectations and trying hard to maintain an image. He asks Nano to keep Amasaki's secret. Nano agrees with a smile, then immediately says she still might tease Amasaki a little. Izumi gets annoyed. They just had a sincere conversation and she's already being mischievous again. Then Nano leans closer and says something that completely flusters. She tells him she's going to make him fall in love with her. No hesitation, no embarrassment, just pure confidence. Meanwhile, elsewhere at school, another person has already made up her mind. Hakuwa, the ice princess herself. She quietly resolves that she won't let this transfer student get what she wants. No chance. The next day, lunch arrives. Izumi approaches his friends, asking if they've bought food. They all turn and glare at him like he betrayed the brotherhood. They angrily tell him to go eat with Nano instead. Apparently, they think he's mocking them by rejecting such a cute girl after getting confessed to. Izumi tries explaining that there aren't dating. His friends don't care. They surround him yelling about how arrogant he must be to reject Nano when Nano is supposedly the perfect pure type girl. Honestly, they sound less like friends and more like angry customers demanding a refund. They boo him and ask why he's so picky when Nano is supposedly the perfect pure type girl. Honestly, Izumi almost laughs. Pure? Yeah, only if they saw what he saw yesterday.
He gives up and decides to eat alone. As he walks off, his friends keep yelling things like die and fake playboy. Absolutely supportive friend group. Soon, lunch takes an unexpected turn. Izumi ends up on the school rooftop with Nano. The two sit together on a bench while eating. Izumi asks the obvious question. Why does she keep finding them everywhere? Nano notices something else first. He doesn't have his usual bento. She asks if he forgot it. Izumi pauses. Today is unusual. Hakuwa didn't bring him lunch this morning. That has never happened. He starts worrying. Did something happen to her? For the first time, he realizes how much he's come to rely on her constant care. Nano casually mentions that her mother always makes her lunch for her. She eats while Izumi tells her something funny. The guys in class all call her the pure type. Nano laughs and says he's making her blush. Then Izumi finally says what he really thinks. Everyone else may see pure white Nano, but he sees something else. He sees dark Nano, a tiny devil hiding under that innocent smile. Nano rests her chin on her hand and looks at at him. Then she asks him if it's wrong for her to always love him. Yep, there it is again. That dangerous directness. Izumi keeps his composure and coolly says hearing something like that from a wonderful girl like her doesn't make him feel bad at all. Izumi tries to keep acting cool after calling Nano a little devil, hiding behind an innocent smile. For about 2 seconds, he thinks his comeback worked. Then he notices Nano staring at him. Her face slowly turns bright red, and suddenly the confident teasing girl from earlier looks genuinely shocked. She tells him she's trying her best to make him see her as wonderful because she really likes him. That completely throws Izumi off. Nano laughs and points out something she's clearly noticed. Every time he relaxes and lets his guard down, she manages to catch him off balance. And honestly, she's not wrong. Before the rooftop conversation go any further, another person shows Amasaki. She walks onto the rooftop acting surprised, saying, "Wow, what a coincidence. She just happened to wander up here and somehow found Izumi." Yeah, totally a coincidence. Nano immediately points out that it's pretty unusual for Amasaki to eat lunch on a roof. The air gets tense instantly. Amasaki and Nano lock eyes, and you can practically see sparks flying between them.
Amasaki sits right next to Izumi and casually says they should eat lunch together. Izumi immediately feels trapped. There's this weird pressure coming from both sides, and my guy has no idea where to look. Then Nano just goes straight for the kill. She asks Amasaki if she came all the way here just to chase after Izumi. Direct hit. Amasaki spits out her milk in shock. She starts panicking, insisting it's all a coincidence. Nano calmly tells her to wipe her face first. Izumi's just sitting there witnessing chaos. And then things somehow get worse. Hakuwa arrives. The wind blows dramatically as she steps onto the rooftop, instantly drawing everyone's attention. Even nearby students start staring because, well, the Ice Princess doesn't casually show up in places like this. Amasaki is shocked. She asks why this student council president is here. Hakuwa smiles, a rare smile. Then she looks straight at Izumi and greets him warmly, calling him Sumi-kun, while apologizing for being late. Everything freezes. The surrounding students are stunned. Amasaki is stunned. Izumi is stunned because the Ice Princess, who barely smiles at anyone, is suddenly talking to him like they're close. Amasaki immediately asks if he actually knows the student council president. Izumi's brain starts melting. How exactly is he supposed to explain this? Before he can even try, Hakuwa raises her hand and points directly at him. Then, in front of everyone, she declares that Izumi is her fiancé. Silence, and then absolute chaos. Students scream, Amasaki screams, Izumi screams. Hakuwa, meanwhile, calmly introduces herself to Nano and even shakes her hand like this is a formal business meeting. She mentions that she's a corporate heir and politely notes that Nano seems to be taking care of her fiancé. Nano is speechless for maybe half a second. Hakuwa internally feels like she may have gone too far, but she also hopes the hierarchy is now very clear. Then Nano smiles and says something nobody expected. She says obstacles only make love more exciting. Hakuwa freezes. That was not the reaction she wanted. Izumi quickly corrects Nano, saying Hakuwa is his ex-fiancé, not his current one. Nano thinks about it for a moment, then shrugs. If the engagement is over, she sees no problem. Hakuwa is completely baffled by this logic. Nano even gives her a smug little look. That's when Hakuwa realizes something terrifying. This transfer student is not a normal rival.
Meanwhile, Amasaki is having her own meltdown, desperately demanding answers. Why is the student council president his fiancé? Why does she call her older sister? Why has nobody informed her of any of this? Hakuwa decides she needs a stronger move. She pulls out a lunch bag and hands it to Izumi. She says he forgot it this morning. Izumi is confused because he doesn't remember forgetting lunch. Then Hakuwa reveals the truth. She intentionally didn't give it to him earlier. This was planned. She opens the bento box. Her goal is obvious. She wants to prove their closeness with the ultimate romantic move, feeding him in public. Hakuwa lifts the chopsticks. Everyone watches. Silence. She freezes. The chopsticks stop midair, and suddenly reality hits her. She cannot do this. Not here, not in front of everyone. Her brain goes into full crisis mode. At school, she's the flawless student council president, the cold, elegant ice princess, the future heir of a major confectionery company. She carries expectations from family, employees, and everyone connected to her name. If she starts acting openly affectionate in public, that entire image shatters. Her hand trembles. She can't move. Izumi has absolutely no idea what's happening, and Nano sees the opening
instantly. No hesitation, she picks up food herself and brings it to Izumi's mouth. Open wide, Izumi reflexively takes the bite before his brain catches up. Critical mistake. He chews, blushes, panics. Nano happily asks how it tastes. Hakuwa watches in horror, pure horror. Izumi stammers that it tastes good, but asks why she would suddenly do something that embarrassing. Nano smiles and casually says she made the egg roll herself. Hakuwa is finished, emotionally deleted. She turns and walks away. Amasaki notices and asks where she went. Meanwhile, Hakuwa is internally exploding. Students near her can literally feel murderous pressure radiating from their ice princess. She admits the truth to herself. She lost. Not because Nano outplayed her completely, but because her own hesitation held her back. In her imagination, Nano is smugly mocking her and calling her small fry. Hakuwa nearly loses it. She swears she has never felt this humiliated in her life. But one thing becomes clear. Nano is now officially a serious rival. Not long after, Hakuwa's vice president finds her. Hakuwa slams her hand on a whiteboard and makes a completely insane proposal. She wants an official school-wide ban on feeding other people on campus. The vice president is stunned. This poor girl has no idea what happened at lunch. After school, Izumi drags himself through the hallway completely exhausted. He just wants peace. Just one peaceful club session, that's all. He decides he'll head to the literature club, relax, and read quietly. Lunch already destroyed his mental energy thanks to Amasaki and Hakuwa. Surely club time will be peaceful. Wrong. Nano suddenly appears behind him and starts tracing letters on his back. Izumi nearly jumps out of his skin. At this point, he finally accepts reality. The true source of chaos in his life is Nano no Nase. Not Amasaki, not Hakuwa, Nano. She teases him, joking that his reaction looked like a bug landed on. Izumi can only sigh. Ever since she transferred in, she has completely ruined his usual rhythm. The confession, the teasing, the constant ambushes. This girl doesn't let him breathe. Nano happily says she's excited to visit his club. Izumi tries very hard not to think about the disaster waiting ahead. He remembers how she got excited the moment she learned he was in the literature club and immediately demanded to observe a meeting. As they walk, Nano asks about the club. She also mentions her archery practice got canceled today, then leans close and whispers near his ear. Again, Izumi immediately tells her to stop whispering like that every time. When they enter the club room, Haru reacts instantly. She points at Nano and tells her to leave. No greeting, no hesitation, just pure hostility. Nano and Izumi both freeze. Even Inori looks surprised. Izumi understands why Haru acts aggressively toward him. She's protective of Inori, but toward Nano, that's new. He looks around the tiny prep room and assumes Haru just doesn't want more people crammed inside. But Haru's actual thoughts are very different. To her, this club is special. It's one of the few places where she and Inori naturally get to spend time with Izumi. Then Nano showed up, confessed on day one, fed him lunch in public, no shame whatsoever. In Haru's eyes, this girl is an outrageous invader. She looks dirty naughty, expecting support. Instead, Inori betrays her completely. She drags Haru aside and tells Nano to ignore her. Then she politely brings out a chair and welcomes Nano. Izumi is stunned. Haru is horrified. She whispers furiously, asking Inori what she's doing. Inori whispers something back that absolutely destroys her. She tells Haru she lost because she waited too long to make her move. Brutal. Izumi watches like he just witnessed betrayal in real time. Even he feels attacked. Nano wonders if she accidentally scared Haru. Izumi tries smoothing things over, explaining Haru isn't actually mean, she's just a cute junior. Then Nano asks if he was in archery at his previous school. He says yes. Then she casually asks if that makes her more interested in him. Izumi dismisses it as normal conversation. Big mistake, because Nano immediately escalates. She asks him out this weekend. Straight up, date invitation. Izumi is stunned. What part of that conversation led to this? Haru nearly falls over from shock. Inori quietly watches everything like she's enjoying premium entertainment. Nano explains that she came from the countryside and just wants someone to show her around Tokyo. Then she adds that if she wants to call it a date, she wouldn't mind. Smooth, very smooth. Izumi is flustered again. Haru finally snaps and starts lecturing him non-stop. She says being club president doesn't give him the right to turn the club room into a flirting zone. She claims he only became president because he was the last senior left, not because he earned it. Izumi just apologizes. What else can he even do? After her long rant, Haru runs out of steam. Then, with obvious nervousness, she asks the real question. Was he serious about going on a date? Izumi tries explaining it's not actually a date. Haru barely hears him. She's too worked up. Finally, she asks what she really wants to know. Are he she and Nano already dating. Inori, meanwhile, casually takes a photo of this madness like she's documenting wildlife. Izumi immediately denies it. He points out that he and Nano literally just met. From behind him, Nano boos in disappointment. Haru instantly brightens with hope. Then Izumi adds one more thing. He says there isn't anyone right now that he'd seriously think about dating. And that statement hits Haru like lightning.
Inori watches Haru's reaction and quietly realizes something important. Since Izumi and Nano still aren't dating, Haru still has a chance. Inori tells her that knowing they're not together yet is already a good start. Then, trying to restore some sanity to the room, she suggests they finally begin actual club activities now that things have become way too lively. Izumi agrees. At this point, though, he can't help but wonder if everyone around him has started acting weird lately. Haru is still half collapsed on the floor while Inori comforts her, warning her not to make any more terrible impressions on Izumi. Meanwhile, Nano apologizes to Izumi, saying he moves too fast for her to keep up. Izumi is confused because from his perspective, she's the one constantly throwing him off balance. Still, they continue reading together, and somehow, things get even worse. Nano and Izumi are sitting ridiculously close while sharing one book. Nano comments that the atmosphere feels nice, while Izumi starts discussing how the story they're reading might end tragically. Haru completely loses it. She demands to know why they're sharing a book and sitting that close. She even yells at them to stop talking while reading. That makes Inori pause, because Haru is absolutely not in a position to criticize anyone's behavior right now. Nano apologizes for talking and suggests to use silent signals whenever she wants the page turned. Izumi internally notes that giving everyone their own book would have solved literally all of this. Then Haru suddenly freezes. Her eyes lock onto something, Nano's hand. Specifically, Nano's hand touching Izumi's leg. At first, it's just a touch, then a small pinch. Then she starts lightly stroking his leg. Izumi's brain short circuits. What is she doing? He can't react without making everything weird, but doing nothing is somehow worse. Haru and Inori stare in complete disbelief. They're both frozen. Haru quietly asks Inori what exactly is happening. Inori gives the most forced laugh imaginable while sweating. Even she has no answer. Izumi is breaking into a cold sweat too. Then Nano casually calls his name. She tells him to hurry up and turn the page because she's been giving you the signal for a while. Izumi finally snaps. He demands to know why that was the signal she chose, of all possible signals. Haru suddenly stands up, fast. Everyone stops. Inori watches nervously. Haru takes a deep breath, then walks out. Silence. Then her voice echoes through the entire school. She screams loud enough for the whole building to hear. Has the club room turned into a hostess bar? Her voice practically reaches the clock tower. Haru stands outside, fuming with jealousy. In her mind, sharing a book like that is basically cheating. Then she remembers something. She had secretly been reading the same book too, just to stay on the same page as Izumi. And that thought sparks something in her. If that's how this game is played, she'll fight back. She storms back in, then drops into the seat on Izumi's other side. Now, both girls are sandwiching him. Izumi is stunned. Haru declares that she's reading with him too. Izumi begs Inori to please say something. Anything. Inori pulls out her phone and casually says the scene is funny enough to record. Traitor. Absolute traitor. Izumi realizes she's enjoying this way too much. Haru demands he open the book immediately, comparing every second of delay to losing a match in an FPS game. Izumi internally notes that this comparison makes absolutely no sense. Then, Haru starts yelling about Izumi and Nano flirting, but then stops mid-sentence. She freezes. Izumi asks what's wrong. Haru's face changes because her brain finally catches up to what she was about to say.
She just publicly acted jealous. She fought to sit beside him. She competed with another girl. That implies feelings. Feelings she's not ready to admit. Izumi asks if she's okay because she's acting strange. That finishes her. Haru falls backward out of her chair completely. Izumi panics, but Inori catches her and calmly explains this is apparently normal. That somehow raises more questions. Haru looks completely drained. Inori helps her sit upright. Haru weakly announces she's going home, then wobbles towards the exit. Nano also decides to leave. As they walk out, Nano apologizes for things getting weird. Izumi says it's fine. Then Nano comments that he seems surprisingly popular. She points out how clearly Haru adores him. Izumi immediately objects to the wording. Adored? That's not the word he'd use. Nano describes Haru as basically all soon with no dede. Honestly,
Fair. Then Nano reminds him she's looking forward to the weekend. Izumi tries one more time to clarify that it is not a date. Elsewhere, Inori gives Haru a serious talk. She tells her she needs to be honest with herself. If she keeps hesitating, Izumi will be taken by someone else, especially now that Nano is aggressively making moves. Haru looks distressed. The truth hurts. Then suddenly, a voice calls out from behind them. Both girls turn and freeze. Standing there are Hakuya and Amasaki, both wearing terrifying expressions. They demand every detail about the conversation involving Izumi and Nano. Haru and Inori immediately panic. These seniors are terrifying. The pressure alone feels lethal. Time passes. Weekend arrives. Izumi is waiting at the station. Nano arrives and apologizes for making him wait. Izumi points out he actually came 10 minutes early. Nano says the city trains overwhelmed her and she lost track of time. But Izumi notices something unusual. She's making excuses. Nano, the girl who's normally calm and teasing, she's nervous. Izumi sees through it instantly. He tells her she didn't run because she was late. She ran because she wanted to see him sooner. Direct hit. Nano goes speechless for once. Then she laughs and admits he got her. She asks what he honestly thinks of her casual outfit. Before he can fully respond, she notices something: his clothes. She asks if he bought brand new clothes specifically for today. Izumi freezes. Counterattack. Effective. He awkwardly claims it's just a coincidence and he simply needed new clothes. Nano gives him a suspicious grin. She clearly doesn't believe him. And suddenly, she grabs his hand firmly. Izumi's entire body locks up. Nano looks straight at him and asks the forbidden question. So, is today actually a date? Izumi instantly jerks his hand back and loudly denies it. Nano bursts into laughter. She tells him he's terrible at pretending to be a player. Izumi grumbles. She really is showing her mischievous side again. Then Nano asks something more serious. Aren't boys supposed to just start dating a girl after she confesses? Izumi shakes his head. To him, it's not that simple. He reflects on something painful. He can't imagine making someone spend time with him purely for his own benefit. Old words resurface in his mind. Memories of being called useless and worthless. That pain clearly runs deeper than he lets people see. Nano notices his expression but doesn't push. Then suddenly, Izumi grabs her hand. This time on his own. He says they should get moving. Tokyo is crowded and it'll be dangerous if they got separated. Then he looks back at her and says something that completely destroys her composure. He asks if she even realizes how cute she is. Nano freezes, wide-eyed, speechless. For maybe the first time since meeting him, she has no comeback. She blushes deeply and quietly agrees as they walk through the crowd together. Meanwhile, they're being followed. Of course they are. Amasaki spots them moving and shouts that Izumi is leaving. Hakuya wonders if he's going for a late lunch. Inori looks completely exhausted and wonders why she had to come along for this insanity. As the girls gather in public, bystanders begin staring. And honestly, who can blame them? You've got the famous model, the ice princess, and two cute underclassmen grouped together acting suspiciously. People probably think some major event is happening. Technically, they're not wrong. The event is stalking. The three heroines, plus unwilling Inori, are tailing Izumi during his outing with Nano. At this point, this no longer looks like a romantic rivalry, it looks like organized surveillance. They sneak through crowds, trying to not get caught, looking less like heroines and more like highly suspicious weirdos. Some bystanders even wonder how these girls seem to get along so well. That question brings us to a flashback explaining how this bizarre alliance even happened. A few days earlier, right after Nano visited the literature club, Amasaki was walking down a hallway looking completely drained. She sighs heavily. Lately, she's barely getting any time alone with Izumi. Nano keeps appearing, study sessions are getting interrupted, and now she also has to deal with the fact that the student council president is her ex-fiancé. Too much. She grabs her head and groans, wondering what she's even supposed to do anymore. Then, she bumps into someone, Hakuya. The two stare at each other. Tension instantly rises. Hakuya recognizes Amasaki as the girl who was with Izumi during lunch. Amasaki nervously introduces herself. Hakuya acknowledges that Amasaki is a model. Then, without hesitation, Hakuya says something brutal. She tells Amasaki to give up on Izumi. Amasaki is stunned.
Hakuwa says Amasaki doesn't have what it takes to compete for Izumi's affection, especially after what happened on the rooftop. That immediately irritates Amasaki. She mutters that Hakuwa has no room to talk after fumbling the bento feeding and running away in embarrassment. Direct counter. Hakuwa gets furious. She scolds Amasaki for disrespecting her as a senior. Amasaki laughs and mocks her for instantly using seniority as a shield. Now both are glaring like they're about to start a war. Nearby, Inori calls out for Haru to wait. She warns Haru again that Izumi will be stolen if she keeps hesitating. Haru grumbles about Izumi going on a date with Nano this weekend. That single word, date. Hakuwa and Amasaki both hear it. Their expressions turn dark. They immediately stop Haru and Inori and demand to know everything.
The story jumps back to the present, where the four girls are currently doing something that is both desperate and kind of hilarious. They're hiding behind a giant ice cream statue. Yes, all four of them, spying on Izumi and Nano. Inori, meanwhile, is the only sane person here. She questions the morality of stalking someone on what is basically a date and complains that she somehow got dragged into this operation against her will. Hakuwa immediately defends the mission, saying as student council president, it's her duty to investigate any suspicious student behavior. Sure, Hakuwa, totally professional. Haru and Amatsuki also insist they need to keep watching so they can intervene if things get too far. Inori just looks tired. At this point, she has accepted that she's trapped in a group of love-struck idiots. Soon, they spot Izumi and Nano entering a restaurant, so the girls rush in after them and continue spying from inside. Inori quietly wishes she could just go home. Poor girl, really became collateral damage. Meanwhile, Izumi and Nano sit down together at a place called Spicy. Their food arrives, and Nano immediately notices that Izumi's meal looks really good. She starts wondering if she should have ordered curry too. Then she leans forward and asks if she can try a bite. Izumi reluctantly agrees, but only if she uses a clean spoon. Seems reasonable. Nano responds by placing her spoon on the table and opening her mouth, waiting. She completely ignores the clean spoon condition. Izumi stares. She stares back, mouth still open, no retreat. This girl is unbelievable. Izumi instantly realizes she's doing this on purpose. He gets insanely embarrassed, but also knows Nano won't back down, so he decides the fastest way out is just to get it over with. In his head, he compares the situation to a game where the story won't progress unless you pick the forced dialogue option. Honestly, accurate. He tells Nano to stay still. She obediently waits. Izumi raises the spoon, but now a new problem hits him. There, in public, people can see this. He hesitates. Nano keeps waiting, eventually blushing like crazy. Izumi thrusts the spoon forward and tells her to hurry up and eat. Nano happily takes the bite. She chews, swallows, and then smiles warmly and tells him it tastes really good. Izumi is dying inside. He can't understand why he's the only one suffering from embarrassment here. Nano then playfully says she should return the favor. Izumi immediately refuses. No hesitation. He points out that she already used the spoon. Not happening. Nearby, the spying squad is losing their minds. Amasaki watches in stunned silence. Haru straight up tells Izumi to die and yells that he should resist more. Hakuwa looks just as shaken. Meanwhile, Inori is eating, completely calm. She casually comments that the food is actually really good. Honestly, she's the MVP. As she eats, Inori quietly analyzes the situation. Haru is up against two of the most famous girls in school, and on top of that, there's Nano. That's rough. She also comes to a pretty obvious conclusion. Hakuwa and Amasaki are absolutely in love with Izumi too. At this point, there's no denying it. Inori tells everyone they should eat before their food gets cold. But Hakuwa and Amasaki are still laser focused on spying. So Inori decides to do something interesting. She starts a conversation. She asks the older girls how long they've known Izumi. Since Hakuwa is his former fiance, she naturally starts first. Hakuwa explains that she met Izumi 5 years ago in middle school. Their families were business partners, and since both were heirs, they were introduced because of that connection. Haru quickly reminds everyone that she's only an ex-fiance now. Hakuwa turns to her and asks a simple question. Is being his ex-fiance a problem? Haru points out the obvious. Even if the engagement was officially canceled, Hakuwa clearly still cares about him. Hakuwa blushes. Then, surprisingly, she just says it. She asks whether liking him isn't a reason to still care. Silence. Even Haru, Amasaki, and Inori are surprised by how straightforward that was. Hakuwa then explains why. To her, Izumi has always been kind. Whenever she fought with her father, Izumi was the one who took her side. He treated her like a normal girl instead of just an heir. And then she admits something important.
She never truly accepted the broken engagement, not emotionally. As she talks, frustration builds. She realizes something painful. Izumi seems to have almost completely moved on from that history. She gets so irritated she starts bending her spoon with raw hand strength. Amasaki panics and tells her to stop before she breaks it. Haku Akausen regains composure. Then she turns to Haru. Your turn.
Haru hesitates, but starts talking. She explains how back in middle school, she and Inori got harassed by some sketchy guys in town. Things were getting bad. Then Izumi showed up. He stepped in to help. Haku immediately says that sounds exactly like something Izumi would do. Haru continued. Sometime later, during the high school entrance exams, she saw him again. He was working as a student guide, directing examinees to the second floor. That reunion stuck with her. Then Inori casually drops a grenade. She says Haru got super excited and called it a fated reunion. Haru nearly explodes. She yells at Inori to stop making stuff up while turning completely red. But after the embarrassment fades, her mood drops because there's something painful about all this. Izumi doesn't even seem to remember those encounters. Ouch. Amasaki and Inori can only look at her with sympathy. Then Haku turns to Amasaki. Now it's her turn. Amasaki instantly feels pressured. Compared to childhood connection through family engagement and rescued from danger, her story feels way less dramatic. Still, she explains, whenever she missed class because of modeling work, Izumi started taking notes for her. That's how it began. And as soon as she says it, she starts panicking internally. That sounds so lame compared to the others. Haku, though, smiles. She says helping someone like that sounds exactly like Izumi. Haru then points out something interesting. Most people wouldn't go that far for someone without some kind of hidden motive. That thought instantly hits Amasaki. Her eyes widen. Wait, hidden motive? Does that mean maybe he really did have feelings? For a half second, hope returns. Then reality punches her again. She remembers his words. He said he didn't like anyone. He said helping her didn't mean romance. And just like that, she breaks. Amasaki starts crying, wondering if she completely misunderstood everything. Haku and Inori look at her with genuine pity. Poor girl. After a moment, Haku starts laughing softly. She points out how strange this whole situation is. All of them somehow fell for the same guy. And despite all the rivalry and tension earlier, talking openly like this feels weirdly nice. She has something unexpected. Could they actually become friends, even while competing?
The girls think about it. Then they agree. No hard feeling. No matter who wins Izumi's heart, they'll respect the outcome. They all raise their fists in determination. For this brief moment, the rivalry fades. They're just girls sharing the same ridiculous struggle. And honestly, it's kind of wholesome. Of course, the reality still exists. Eventually, only one can win. At some point, this temporary alliance will break. But for now, they share a strange, fragile bond. Meanwhile, Inori continues chewing her food, watching everything. And she arrives at one brutal conclusion. Every single girl at this table is currently losing. They're all heroine candidates, reduced to hiding behind walls and spying on someone else's date. Basically, a group of losers comforting each other after getting emotionally folded. Inori almost laughs. This is way too entertaining. She decides to keep watching. Then, she suddenly notices something. Izumi and Nano are already paying the bill. Her eyes widen. She immediately alerts everyone. The entire group panics and starts shoveling food into their mouths at maximum speed. Izumi asks of Nano if she has anywhere specific she wants to go next, but after watching her think way longer than expected, he quickly realizes, yeah, neither of them actually planned the rest of this day. Nice start. When he points that out, Nano casually admits that she never really cared about the destination in the first place. For her, the date itself wasn't the important part. She just wanted more time with him. And honestly, that kind of direct sincerity is dangerous. No wonder this girl keeps throwing everyone off balance. Not wanting to let her completely control the pace, Izumi suggests they just walk around downtown and see if anything catches her eye. Simple plan, but it works. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, their self-appointed surveillance squad, Amasaki, Haku, Haru, and poor Inori, who got dragged in all this, continue tailing them from a distance. Problem is, even they have no idea where the couple is heading. So now they're basically spying without a strategy. And while they're trying to stay focused, one thing becomes pretty obvious. These girls have gotten weirdly close. Like, despite all technically being rivals, they've become good friends, which is honestly kind of wholesome and also terrifying, because if they ever fully unite, Izumi is finished. Back with our main pair, the date actually goes surprisingly well. Since they're just wandering around
around with no fixed destination, things feel relaxed and natural. No pressure, no forced romantic setup, just the two of them enjoying each other's company. And for someone like Izumi, who's always guarded, that kind of easy atmosphere matters more than he'd admit. Eventually, they stop by a clothing store, where Nano points out something interesting. Even without a plan, Izumi somehow keeps guiding things smoothly, making the outing enjoyable. She admits she's the opposite, someone who hesitates a lot when making decisions, especially when other people are involved. That comment unexpectedly pulls Izumi into his past. As the former heir of his family, he was raised to lead. Making quick, effective decisions wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. He had to become someone who could guide others without hesitation, because in that world, indecision made you useless. Before he can sink too deep into that memory, Nano suddenly asks something that catches Izumi off guard. She asks if his family is connected to the famous tsundere group, and Izumi doesn't deny it. He confirms it casually, saying that yes, it's his family's company, though he's no longer part of that future. He's already been pushed aside, and his younger brother will inherit everything. As far as he's concerned, he never really fit into that world anyway. Even though he says it calmly, the mood shifts. There's clearly more to that story than he's willing to explain. He eventually brushes it off and saying that quick decision-making skills were at least one skill he gained from that life. But unlike before, he doesn't want to keep living at that pace. Right now, wants to move more slowly. Nano notices the heaviness behind his words and apologizes for bringing up painful memories. But instead of dwelling on it, Izumi suddenly starts talking about current clothing trends, and Nano immediately sees through him. Yeah, that was the most obvious subject change ever. Still, she plays along and asks if he actually knows fashion. Izumi says he learned a bit thanks to Amasaki. Big mistake. Nano instantly gets annoyed. And honestly, fair enough. My guy really mentioned another girl during the date. Rookie year.
Sensing the atmosphere turning dangerous, Izumi quickly tries to recover. He points toward a dress and says he thinks it would suit her. Nano says nothing. She just walks over, grabs the outfit, and heads straight to the fitting room. Before going in, she tells him to wait outside, and just like that, Izumi is sentenced to fitting room duty. While waiting, he starts thinking about something he still hasn't resolved. He still doesn't fully trust Nano. No matter how genuine she seems, part of him remains cautious. He suspects she may somehow be connected to either his family or Hakua's family. After all, a transfer student suddenly showing intense interest in him is suspicious. But then he remembers how they first met, and he immediately thinks there's no way someone that clumsy could be some elite spy. Yeah, fair point. Just then, Nano peeks out to confirm he's still there. After seeing him waiting properly, she comments that the outfit he picked lacks appeal. Then, with her usual mischievous smile back, she says they should visit the shop across the hall next. Izumi agrees without thinking, until he notices the store is an underwear shop. Nano slips back into the fitting room, clearly enjoying his reaction. This girl is evil. Cute, but evil. Left alone again, Izumi reflects on something uncomfortable. The feelings Nano brings out of him don't feel fake. He trusts his ability to judge people, and everything about her emotions feels sincere. Deep down, part of him genuinely believes her feelings for him are real. The only thing he can't understand is how those feelings developed so fast. Before he can think further, a new problem appears. He can hear her changing. Now he desperately tries to clear his mind and avoid imagining anything weird. Naturally, that only makes it worse. Then Nano finally steps out wearing an outfit he chose. And yeah, she looks adorable. She asks what he thinks. Without overthinking, Izumi tells her honestly that it looks really cute on her. For once, Nano seems ready to tease him again, but instead, something unexpected happens. She gets embarrassed. Actually embarrassed. She quietly thanks him, and that small reaction hits Izumi way harder than all her teasing, because this expression, this shy, genuine side of her isn't something she shows often. Little by little, Izumi stops seeing Nano as just a troublesome acquaintance. And meanwhile, Nano continues dominating this four-girl battlefield like an absolute menace. A little later, we shift to Amasaki, who parts ways with the others after their failed stalking mission. Even though they lost track of Izumi and Nano, she still enjoyed spending time with the girls. On the bright side, she made new friends, but she hasn't given up. Starting tomorrow, she plans to work with the others on a strategy to beat Nano. Since Izumi and Nano technically aren't dating yet, there's still time to interfere and break whatever bond is forming between them. At least that's what she tells herself. Then, near the station, she suddenly spots them.
them, Izumi and Nano. Before Amasaki can process it, Nano steps closer to him and kisses it. Just like that. No warning, no hesitation, straight to critical damage. And that single moment completely shatters Amasaki. Out of all the girls, she's the most insecure, the one most afraid of being left behind. Watching that kiss makes all those insecurities explode at once. Now, only one thought remained. Do I still have a chance? And with that painful question hanging in the air, Nano's date arc comes to an end. The following days are rough for Amasaki. She keeps replaying everything in her head. Was Izumi lying when he said he wasn't dating Nano? He told her. He told Haru that. He told Hawkwa that too. So what was that kiss? Were they already together? Or if they weren't, then what exactly did she witness? Those thoughts eat away at her so badly that by the time she gets to school, she's radiating pure depression. Her gloomy aura is so strong, people instinctively keep the distance. When Izumi arrives, he immediately notices something is wrong. But before he can approach her, one of Amasaki's friends grabs him and drags him solidly to talk private. And she does not waste time. She demands to know what he did to Amasaki. Izumi is completely lost. He genuinely has no clue. But that answer only makes her more frustrated, since from her perspective, it's obvious he's the cause. She's practically ready to beat the memory back into him when Nano suddenly appears. She casually comments that Amasaki really has been acting strange, which raises a very important question. Why is Nano here? Simple. She saw a girl dragging Izumi somewhere secluded and immediately activated full stalker mode. Honestly, terrifying efficiency. In her mind, she's here to make sure no rival tries anything funny, and if one does, well, she's confident she'll win anyway. Back to the problem though. Nobody understands what's going on with Amasaki. This cold, distant behavior is completely unlike her. Something is clearly wrong. Throughout class, Amasaki remains distracted and miserable. At lunch, she isolates herself. Even after school, she's still lost in thought. Yeah, Nano's kiss absolutely broke her.
Later that day, Izumi heads to the usual study room since they were supposed to study together. There he finds Amasaki looking completely drained. Still, the moment she sees him, her expression brightens just a little. She immediately asks about their study session, but Izumi came to tell her bad news. He can't make it today. Nano asks for his help with something. That tiny bit of hope Amasaki had immediately starts crumbling. Still, gathering what little courage she has left, she makes one last attempt. She invites him out for Saturday. She has a modeling session at the shopping center and asks if he wants to come watch. Afterward, maybe they could spend time together. It's clearly her last push. Izumi thanks her sincerely, but declines. He has work that day. And just like that, the last light in her eyes fades. Now a painful doubt takes over. Is he really telling the truth? Or if Nano had asked him instead, would his answer be different? Unable to hold it back anymore, Amasaki asks the question directly. Does he really like Nano that much? Izumi's caught off guard by how suddenly the conversation turns serious. But since Nano is someone important to him, he answers honestly. He admits he still doesn't fully understand what being in love means. But whenever Nano throws her feelings at him with everything she has, one thought always comes to mind. He wants to respond properly. He wants to understand her better before giving an answer worthy of those feelings. And as he says all this, embarrassed, he quietly admits something important. He's only telling her this because it's her. That honesty destroys Amasaki. In that moment, she understands something painful. The love she held on to for so long might already be hopeless. Man, that hurts. Before Izumi can react, Amasaki hurriedly makes an excuse and rushes out of the room. She leaves before he can ask what's wrong. And just when you think things couldn't get messier, not far away, Nano had overheard everything.
Saturday finally arrives, and we find ourselves at the shopping center where Amasaki is in the middle of a modeling shoot. But things are clearly not normal. For the entire week, she's been absent from school and hasn't seen Izumi even once. She kept telling herself to stop thinking about pointless things and focus on work. Just do the job, smile, and move on. Easier said than done. Her photographer immediately notices something's off. Her expressions are stiff, unnatural, like she's forcing every smile. Thinking she's just having a rough day, he suggests taking a short break. Amasaki steps away and heads to the bathroom to fix some makeup. But while staring at her reflection, she can't stop thinking about how fake her face looks right. No matter what she does, she can't smile naturally anymore. And honestly, that frustrates her even more because now her personal feelings are starting to affect the thing she cares about most, her work. Then, out of nowhere, Nano hugs her. Yeah, no warning, just straight up ambush hug. Completely startled, Amasaki asks what she's even doing here. Nano casually replies that she came with Izumi to see her. And that just hurts more, because in Amasaki's mind, Izumi rejected her invitation, only to come here with Nano instead. At this point, she starts wondering if Nano came here just to rub salt in the wound. Still, she tells herself there's no way Nano knows about her feelings for Izumi. She's hidden them carefully. At least that's what she thought, because Nano suddenly asks her point blank if she's in love with Izumi. Amasaki freezes, then immediately denies it. Too late. Nano calmly reveals something devastating. The entire class already noticed. Pretty much everyone knows. The only person who might not have realized is Izumi himself. And wow, imagine thinking you hid your crush perfectly, only to find out literally everybody noticed except the dunce's guy alive. Amasaki is completely shaken, but Nano keeps going. She points out that based on Amasaki's behavior alone, even Izumi has already started suspecting her feelings. Now cornered with nowhere left to run, Amasaki lashes out. She accuses Nano of enjoying this, of enjoying watching her suffer. She sarcastically says she shouldn't expect kindness from someone bold enough to kiss a guy in public. At first, Nano looks confused. Then it clicks. Amasaki saw them at the station, and suddenly everything about her recent behavior makes sense. Nano immediately moves closer and quietly explains what really happened. That kiss wasn't what Amasaki thought. She tells her that whenever she gets close like that, Izumi gets super embarrassed and she just finds that reaction adorable. That's what Amasaki saw. But for Amasaki, somehow this explanation feels even more dangerous, because now she realizes Nano isn't winning through tricks. She's winning by actively making moves, and that leads her to a bitter thought. These are the methods Nano's been using to trap Izumi, but Nano challenges that idea. Is it really wrong to do everything you can so the person you like notices you? And honestly, she has a point. Nano makes something painfully clear. She's not sitting around waiting for Izumi to magically take initiative. She's fighting for him. Meanwhile, Amasaki and the others honestly have mostly been waiting for him to make the next move. After that, Nano shifts the conversation. She tells Amasaki something important. Izumi has been worried about her, so she asks her directly, is she really okay with letting things stay like this? That question pulls Amasaki back to where everything started. Back in her first year, her Rome teacher called her in for a serious talk. Her grades were so bad, she was at risk of repeating the year, and if that happened, she'd have to quit modeling. That was a disaster. Desperate, she went to the library to study. And by study, I mean she sat there with books open while having absolutely no clue where to even begin. She was just about ready to give up when a weird guy approached her. And yep, that weird guy was Izumi. Back then, Amasaki's first impression of him was basically, who is this strange dude? Still, after seeing how troubled she looked, Izumi kept pressing until she finally explained her situation. So he helped. He created a study plan for her and organized everything so she can at least pass. And during the week before finals, they studied together every single day. Little by little, they grew closer.
Then the exams came, and somehow, by the absolute skin of her teeth, Amasaki passed every subject, barely. But a pass is a pass. Afterwards, she thanked Izumi, but he immediately gave her the credit. He told her it was her effort that made the difference. That's when she asked something she'd been wondering. Why did he help her that much? Izumi's answer was simple. He noticed how seriously she took modeling, and in some way, he saw himself in it. He believed someone with that much passion shouldn't be held back by something as stupid as bad grades. Was that speech a little ribbon? Yeah. Did it work? Absolutely. Because that sincerity made her fall for him. From there, their friendship kept growing. By second year, they ended up in the same class, and the guy she once thought was superficial had become someone she deeply cared about. That's why she can't accept losing like this. So, Amasaki finally admits it. No, she's not okay with any of this. The moment she says that, Nano immediately responds. Both of them love the same guy. So instead of giving up, why not both fight for him? Amasaki is stunned because what? Why would Nano help her rival? Why not just leave her broken and take Izumi for herself? But Nano explains, Izumi is weirdly passive when it comes to romance. No matter how much she pushes, progress is painfully slow. She suspects part of the issue is his low self-esteem. So she came up with an absurd plan. If both of them keep pushing him, maybe they can force him to stop running from romance. I'm sorry, but Nano is actually insane. She's so confident she might win that she's literally buffing the competition. That is terrifying still. Amasaki refuses to back down. She makes it clear she has no intention of giving up. Good.
Good, that's the spirit. But Nano grins and gives one final warning. She'll help, but in the end, she's still going to be the one who ends up with Izumi. She openly admits she's basically using Amasaki as extra pressure to speed up Izumi's emotional development. This girl is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Soon after, they head back toward the photo shoot area and run into Izumi. Nano immediately gives Amasaki a small push forward. Time to face him. Amasaki wastes no time asking the obvious question. Why is he here? He told her he had work today. Izumi answers honestly, because he was worried about her. He asked someone to cover his shift. Then he apologized. He says he knows how much effort she put into inviting, and he feels terrible for turning it down. He genuinely believes he's the reason she's been hurting. And because of that, he decides to tell her something he never properly explained before. Why he helped her in the first place. It's because he saw himself in her. Back in middle school, his parents gave him a major test to determine whether he was worthy of inheriting the family business. His assignment was to launch a project from scratch. He worked with the designer he admired and created merchandise based on a character he believed in. He thought it was great, but when it launched, it completely failed. Total disaster. And just like that, we get a huge clue. That keychain Nano carries? Yeah, it might actually be merchandise from that failed project. Meanwhile, under similar conditions, Izumi's younger sibling launched a project that became a massive success, and that success helped determine who would carry the family legacy, not Izumi. Getting back to the present, Izumi tells Amasaki something important. Even while still in high school, she's producing work at a professional level. That's not normal. That's something only she can do. And because of the effort she puts in, he tells her he likes people like her. The moment Amasaki hears those words, her heart stops. She knows he doesn't mean it romantically, she knows. But even so, for just a moment, she wants to believe in that illusion. Before returning to the shoot, Amasaki says something back. Even if what she does seems ordinary to others, Izumi taught her that doing ordinary things well is still something amazing. After all, the grades she earned back then were proof of his guidance. And with that, she finally smiles. A real smile. Not forced, not fake. The old Amasaki is back. She heads into the shoot with renewed confidence. Leaving Izumi and Nano behind, Izumi asks if Nano said something to her, because whatever happened, it worked. That day, Amasaki absolutely shines. Her smile becomes everyone's favorite topic. And just like that, Amasaki is officially back in the race. So now the battlefield gets even crazier. Nano is still aggressively pushing forward, and Amasaki has regained her fighting spirit. And with Hakuwa and Haru still around, yeah, Izumi's peaceful life is cooked. And that's where this part ends.